There are just some stories as a journalist that you grow very close to, and this is one of those stories. I was one of the first reporters to walk up to STEM school Highlands Ranch back in May of 2019. And I've now become a friend of John Castillo, his son Kendrick, a young man who died that day protecting his classmates. Yesterday was a significant day, as there are so many for this family, but yesterday's special in a different way because Kendrick loved science, he loved space, and John Castillo, Kendrick's dad, joining me now to talk more about that and some other things. John, it's so good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to talk.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So,
But,
tell me about the process leading up to yesterday, what happened, and why the world of space was so important to Kendrick.
oh boy, let me go back and start. I mean, Kendrick was just, he was in private parochial school through the eighth grade, and he entered into science fair competitions and did very well, competed at the state level. We found the STEM school, and he joined the robotics team, and space and technology just consumed him. He was one of those kids who never really fit into sports or music or the arts very much. He liked to draw and paint, but that was about it. But technology just consumed him. So, uh, space exploration and being able to follow it and find heroes that were innovators and inventors, Nikolai Tesla and people in our history like that who were made huge contributions to science were his heroes. And at a young age, he just adhered to that and thought that, and of course, I loved it because I think that they're very positive role models.
Mm.
And we fed that. I mean, every time that he had a birthday or Christmas would come around or something like that, it was all electronic kits or Estes rockets, things like that, and it grew on him and it became his passion. So that's kind of where it all started.
And then yesterday, kind of the
Yeah, yeah.
culmination of something you applied for months ago. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah. We actually would carry Kendrick's favorite hoodie, and it's a NASA hoodie. When we went down and we were able to witness a SpaceX launch, he had mentors from ULA and Lockheed that worked with the robotics team. So, my wife's like, when we'd plan our vacations as a family, it was always based around something that Kendrick enjoyed. And of course, I went along with that because I thought it was cool stuff too. And after this tragedy, uh, NASA director reached out to us actually and said that he noticed we carried his hoodie into the courtroom
Mm.
when we would enter and leave, and was very gracious in sending a letter to us, extending the opportunity to have Kendrick's name put on the 2020 rover when it launched. And we were just blown away. It was great. So the little certificate was sent out to us in a packet along with the letter. And I posted that up on social media, but it's just amazing. And to see the rover launch was great. But I have to tell you, yesterday was just, for me, a flood of emotions. I was here at work and my wife was at home and we were on the phone together. And I told her, turn it on. It's getting ready to make its landing. And oh, it just, the rush of emotions that came over me knowing that Kendrick's name was on there with other individuals as well. But, landing on a planet and being able to explore, and the fact that it's looking for life, I think resonated with me that, he so tragically lost his, saving his friends and people he loved. And this is a new lease. It's a robot. It's something that he was passionate about. And it's going to travel around a unknown planet and maybe find some form of life, and it just, all that just kind of came together as a head and just was just incredible. We both had a very long pause on the phone. And we know, of course, that if he was here with us, he would be glued to television and cheering. There'd probably be a watch party or something that he would have assembled because that's what he loved. I mean, those types of things like a sports gathering for him, and his friends. So yeah, it was incredible, just totally. And we're just taken back that our technology leaders recognized him. I mean, that was just huge. Yeah.
He's had, and you've had, and Kendrick has had such an impact on people's lives, from science to protecting your friends, to the discussion on school shootings. It's certainly changed the course of your life and what you're doing now. Um, I know as a parent, that pain never goes away,
No,
ever.
no.
Um, but how has it changed your life and what you're doing?
Boy, man, it's changing in so many ways. I mean, I have to be honest, in some ways, there's parts of me that still haven't accepted it. I mean, I tell people my wife has been able to dream about Kendrick, but, I haven't. And I think it's just part of my mind shutting down, not wanting to accept the fact that he's gone. But I have to stay, vigilant and strong. I've taken on a role of, I'm a self-made activist, as I call myself, but I want to continue to get stronger and see if I do more. But what I do right now is I try to do the things that I think are going to make a difference. And some of them are controversial. They don't align with what other people in the community or uh, people who have experienced school shootings believe. And I'm okay with that. I just wish that they would hear me out and understand that it's a different point of view and a different angle. And some of that has to do with, having armed security in our schools and things like that. So, I strive towards that. Of course, that's not the only thing that I'm about. I think the very first thing that needs to happen are strong families. I mean, and that means faith. It means, you know, being a believer, finding, your ground with your kids. And I never realized, I mean, I was fortunate. Maria and I mean, our family was full of love, and I just naturally assumed that most families were. And through this tragedy, I found out that people have kids and give them money and give them items and neglect them so they can enjoy their own personal life and they don't have a relationship. And I think that at the very core, that's where things need to begin if we're going to change what's happening with suicide
Mm.
and school shootings and things like that. So I advocate for that first. Um, I'd like our lawmakers to rename things, and I found out a whole lot of things about juvenile justice and law that never even entered my mind because before this, I was just a father coaching a robotics team and going to school and with my son, and Maria was, making meals and cookies and things like that. We never thought about what happens in our court system or what even happens under the dome at the Capitol with laws.
And all of that has now been forced upon you, but you've taken a very active role in learning it and speaking openly about it. Where are things now for those who don't know? May will be 2 years, and you are still in the court system.
Yeah, 2 years. It's unbelievable. 2 years, 28 witnesses to homicide, to a murder, you know, two adult teachers and all the students that were in the room. And we're still in court debating how we're going to proceed with sentencing and getting justice. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I guess the troubling thing for me is, the more I find out, there's laws that are passed. There was just one back in, I want to say 2012, that allowed the juvenile to enter into a program that would reduce, you get a life sentence with possibility of parole at 40. They enter into a program and it can be reduced to as little as 8 or 9 years and they can get released. And that's just troubling to me. I mean, just yesterday, I mean, there's so much information out there on social media. I saw where there was a juvenile that was convicted sometime back in the 50s, and he's now 80 something that was released yesterday. oldest living juvenile, but
Mm.
he had a life sentence and he's out at like 82 years old or whatever. And they were saying about reform and things like that. It's hard for me to wrap my arms around something like that when, you're a survivor and your child was a victim of murder, and it's just tough. We see that now coming up. You'll probably hear me. I'm going to try to get active and get back down to the Capitol and try to fight for some new things. As we go in, there's going to be older people who are in their up to, I believe it's 25, that can get reduced sentences for murder. So we're trying to lessen and free up our prison system, but it's not justice for families who have children taken from them,
Yeah.
and not just in school shootings, but in murders. I follow every story that comes up. Uh, a girl recently in Fort Collins that was, beaten by her boyfriend, and died in the hospital. And there's a mural downtown that is beautiful of Kendrick, and Maya is right next to him. She was killed by her boyfriend in Highlands Ranch. Found out that she attended Kendrick's memorial service,
Mm.
and then short time later she was murdered. So we keep having our kids taken from us, and the pain that these parents endure is private pain that they deal with, and society just goes on. So I hope I
Yeah.
can be an advocate for change.
Well, you certainly are someone that inspires others, other victims' families, even those of us in the general population who this year in particular, the last year, has been hard for everyone. What has that been like for you? Because isolation um, during COVID, that's tough on everyone. We worry about our kids now who are learning at home, and yet you're still dealing with trauma and grief in this COVID setting.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because it's really bizarre. I mean, COVID is it has had less impact on my wife and I think than it would have had we not lost Kendrick, because our focus is still on the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with that said, I mean, I don't want to minimize that COVID isn't a bad thing, but for us, it just hasn't had that stranglehold on us like it does
Yeah.
with most people in our community. So, but with that said, on the court side of it, knowing that we're waiting for justice 2 years later, um, it does have that effect. That are we going to see justice? What happens if one of us goes out to the grocery store, or going to a church service, or we find out, I'm back to work. I work in hospitality, so I contact somebody, and all of a sudden one of us becomes sick, and we don't get the opportunity to see justice. That's a reality.
Yeah.
So that's something that definitely resonates with us, and we talk about, and we think about. We don't do it very often, but we know that it's a reality, and that's something that I would like society to know, that the reason we would like to see swift justice is for that. I mean, at least we get that part taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about faith. I know that your faith is very important to you. I know you raised Kendrick um, in that same realm. Um, how has that helped you in the last 2 years?
Well, immensely. I mean, without our faith, I don't know where we would be. Without our faith, um, you know, there would be more people that aren't here with us today, because it took faith for Kendrick to do what he did. He was
Mm.
strong. I mean, he was raised in our faith. He was, he went to Notre Dame Catholic school, and he literally had the keys to the school. I mean, he would go and help with funeral masses where older people didn't have like family. And, I would ask him when we'd pick him up from school, "How was your day?" "It was great. I got out of one class to go help out with the funeral. And it was so sad, Dad. They didn't have many relatives or friends." Um, but faith has brought us through this. I'm a Knight of Columbus with, a Catholic men's organization that helps the marginalized, people with needs. And, Kendrick would go to the meetings with us. Through all of this, he was made a full knight. And, That was wonderful to see because it's something that he wanted to do. And we would do Tootsie Roll drives outside of,
Mm.
King Supers and stuff like that to raise money to help folks. And he was right there with me. But yeah, our faith community, our belief system, and it's kept us strong. And, it's also put us at odds with how we feel about killers and stuff too. It's a hard thing, it tests your faith every day.
Yeah.
We wake up and it's hard, but we've never wavered. And I don't know, it seems crazy, but there's signs I believe in our faith that have come to me and to Maria. And, we'll be sitting there visiting him and the wind will blow. And I feel him around us. And I think it's because of our strong faith and our belief.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been so important. And I wish, I've met friends of Kendrick's and other people who, um, they're great people, but they just don't have a faith structure and they deal with things quite differently, and I just wish that I can instill some of that into them so that they can get some comfort because it's been great for us.
That comfort so important. As we wrap things up, I know you visit Kendrick every night, and I know you moved so that you could be a little closer to where he is. What do you think he's thinking? What do you think now? I know that you said Maria's able to dream about him,
Yeah.
but when he looks down at all the work you're doing now and everything happening in our world, I just kind of want to end on that because he has to be so proud of you.
Well, I think that he would be. I think that, Kendrick was amazing in the fact that he was an extroverted engineer, which is something that you don't find. And I think he got a little bit of that from me. I like to talk, I love people. Um, Kendrick is the same in that aspect. And I think that, I made a choice early on, and we all have options. People who lose loved ones, the path is very different for each one of us. And I decided to be vocal and talk about it and fight for justice for Kendrick any way that I can and change, not just for Kendrick, but for other people out there that we don't even know. Other communities. There's a community in Santa Fe, Texas that they're in a rural area. They're victims of a school shooting. And I try to support them as much as I can. But I want to be that person for change. And I think that's who Kendrick would want me to be.
Mm,
I don't think he'd want me to give up and stop. I feel that if he knew I lost that purpose, I would probably be done. So I need to keep it going. I have to, excuse me for a minute.
it's okay.
I think I need to keep pursuing things to help others.
Yeah.
That's who Kendrick was. He was full of love. And, he would tell me, that if there's anybody who can fix this, that it would probably be me, and he would just want me to keep trying to do things no matter how difficult. I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a politician. I'm just an average dad. But he would say, keep going because we've proven that through science and through technology that anything can be done. You go through and you look at things, you analyze the problem, you engineer it, and
Yep.
you pray over it and you fix it. And I believe that's what he's telling me to do. Um, he's also telling me slow down and take care of his mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, I appreciate your time so much. I love your heart. And I'm confident that Kendrick is proud of you and you're doing all those things. And you're an inspiration to so many people. I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for that tragic day, which um, I'm just proud of how you've dealt with it. So thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for your beautiful heart. And let's talk again soon, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And good luck on your endeavors. I'm so proud of you as well. Um, taking risk is what life is all about. There's no growth unless we step off the edge.
That's
So
so true. That's so true. Well, let's talk again soon. And I'm excited that Kendrick's name is there on that Mars rover. And do you think they're going to find life there?
I think they are. I really do. We had talked about that when he was alive, actually, with it was a little coffee time conversation we had. There was a ULA engineer, Kendrick and I, and we believe that there's going to be something found. Yeah, so we'll
Good.
wait and see.
Well, let's talk again.
All
And
right,
maybe when that happens, we'll have another reason to talk again.
sounds
Okay.
great.
Take
All
care and
right,
tell
all
Maria
right,
hi.
I will.